The story of Lil Bibby and his unique and complex come-up through the music industry is one that goes overlooked on a multitude of levels. Not only did he develop an impressive lineup on his label's roster, Grade A, but before moving into music management, he was also one of the most promising young artists in the hip-hop scene. And yeah, this all sounds good, but unfortunately Bibby did not have the career path that he originally sought out for himself. Your first impression of Bibby may be that he's a smart, humble, and maybe even a thoughtful guy, and many times he's shown that to be true. But there's also a darker side of the man that meets the eye. This isn't just a story about Bibby, but the many people he met along the way, ranging from the Kid Laroi and DJ Academics, all the way to Justin Bieber and Scooter Braun. This story would climax with even more industry heads being involved along the way. Early on in his career, Lil Bibby is cited mentioning New York rapper Jadakiss and Toronto rapper Drake to be his two favorites, and these outside influences may have deeply impacted his unique sound. But Drake was also a fan of Lil Bibby, and even all the way back in 2013, Drake is quoted saying Bibby is his favorite too. I don't have the exact quote here, but I do have footage of Drake turning up to this very early Bibby song, so I think that might be proof enough.
Know a couple niggas that's down the ride for a homicide when it's drama time. When I'm on a nigga with the llamas flying, leave these little boys all traumatized. 150, I'm really with it. I drop his ass and they forget it on the man around my side of town.
Now, I know what everybody's thinking. Having Drake as a cosign is probably not a great look, but you gotta understand this was back in 2013 when Drake was the king of music and he was untouchable and you could do no wrong. And of course, I gotta mention that Bibby came up with G Herbo, but if you know anything about Bibby, you probably already know this. Later in 2013, Lil Bibby released his debut mixtape, Free Crack, which had a unique sound that took over parts of Chicago and a lot of the Northeast. This sound and subject matter began to be known as drill music or drill rap, and this term was actually not birthed by the rappers themselves, but this term was in fact created by the fans of the music and the people reporting on the music, not the actual rappers doing the music. And DJ Academics covered this in the past with his Warren Chirac series. He's also mentioned how he regrets doing it, but if you really want to go back and watch it, it's actually a pretty good watch. Maybe go back and watch it after this video. But it should just be known that Lil Bibby was a big part of birthing this sound. And ironically, Big Ac will actually come Big Back into play later in the story. With the success of his debut mixtape, he was able to land on the XXL freshman list in 2014. Other artists to make the list this year were also Chance the Rapper, Rich Homie Quan, Isaiah Rashad, Ty Dolla $ign, Lil Durk, Kevin Gates, August Alsina, and a couple other artists who just honestly aren't around today. But other than those 3 or 4 guys, this is just a really, really good list. And after a couple delays with this label, he could finally put out his second mixtape, and this was a sign of more bad things to come from his label. And his sound really started to evolve at this point as he was touching on subjects like leaving the streets behind and leaving people behind that didn't want to see him in the position that he wanted to be in. And this evolution in sound kind of showed his ability to appreciate other kinds of music, which would help him in the future once he evolves into his current day position. But he still had one more piece of art to release, Free Crack 3. And at the time, he was not planning on that being the last project to come out for a long time, but unfortunately that is what happened, and this is where the story starts to evolve outside of just music. So now he's released 3 mixtapes, and he's really starting to establish who he is in the game and as an artist. And at the same time, the Kid Laroi in Australia is doing the same thing with a couple songs under his label. And this really gets Lil Bibby's attention, and this is when the story really starts to get interesting. And that's because this is when his label started blocking his own debut album, Free Crack 4. And I know I said he dropped 3 albums or mixtapes already at this point, but at that point, mixtapes weren't considered albums, and they were largely available for free on the web. And that was because of websites like DatPiff and My Mixtape and other websites like that. And also, I just gotta say how sick this album cover is. It's so dope. But the point is, he started his own label, Grade A, so he could start signing artists under him.
So it's this song called Blessings, and it's in the hook. He was like, I wake up and count my blessings. But then the second half of the hook, he switched the flow, and I've been on the low, low, low. And once I heard that, I'm like, I need this kid. Like,
So what, you reached out, talked to his mother or something?
yeah. With the moms, it's hard to get somebody to trust you, you know what I'm saying? Well, I told my people, whatever these people want, give it to, I'm giving it to them, you know what I'm saying? So I meet with my lawyer and telling him, like, man, look, I need this kid. Whatever you got to do, get me this kid. So he like, oh, if he's in a Sony deal, well, you could probably try to partner with Sony or da-da-da. So I'm like, Vlad, I told my lawyer, like, man, I need this kid, whatever I got to do. So
I do think this is a good time to mention that Lil Bibby's face and his voice do not pair well at all. Like, if you heard him on a song, you would not expect him to look the way he does. And I think it kind of plays into his marketing a little bit. I don't know. I think it's just kind of interesting. But yeah, anyways. So it wasn't until 2019 where Bibby was able to land Leroy as an artist, and at this point he actually had already signed Juice WRLD in 2018. So he was already on quite the run with these two guys under his belt. And only a couple years ago he was only just a rapper, and now he's managing two of the biggest stars on the planet. And as you heard Bibby mention, he does have this deal with Leroy, technically under Sony, but he does have both of those guys under his label now. So now as Leroy's manager, Bibby's starting to give him connections in the game, and he hooks him up with Cole Bennett, who happens to be one of the biggest music video producers at the time. So this was absolutely huge for Leroy. But unfortunately, late 2019, Juice WRLD passes away right before Leroy starts to get this international attention. So Grade A has to kind of pivot and think of a new way to market everything. And about 6 months after Juice WRLD's passing, Leroy and Juice WRLD released the song Go in June of 2020. So I don't know if this is where Bibby got the idea to release Juice music after he passed away, but he would do it a bunch more after this as well. And that just really goes to show how prolific Juice WRLD was as an artist and how fortunate Bibby was to have him, because even after Juice WRLD's passing, Bibby was still making money off of him, and he still is to this day, and still releasing new music to this day. With the latest release being The Pre-Party, and Bibby has been hinting at a fourth album from Juice WRLD for a long time now, and it's only a matter of time before that album comes out as well. So unfortunately, Juice WRLD had passed, but Bibby had a plan for what he was going to do with the Juice WRLD music. But there's a problem with Leroy, because Leroy got introduced to Justin Bieber, and if you know much about Justin Bieber nowadays, he's pretty protective of the young stars coming up just because of his past. And I'm not going to get too into that, but let's just say, if you know, you know, and he's probably just trying to protect anybody who he thinks he can in a similar position. And before anybody thinks this video is about to get insane, no, I'm not comparing Lil Bibby to Diddy at all. No. But what I will say is it's possible that Justin Bieber may have thought something like that. I don't know. So you can assume Justin asked Leroy about his management and probably suggested that he joined his own management. And only a month later, Leroy was under Scooter Braun. Later that summer, Cole Bennett was hosting a festival called the Lyrical Lemonade Summer Smash. And Cole Bennett is the same guy who Bibby introduced to Leroy back in the beginning of Leroy's career when he was trying to help Leroy get bigger. And I'm kind of going to make an assumption here that Bibby knew that Cole had an understanding that they were already kind of close, and maybe in knowing this, Bibby could just walk around backstage to get as close to Leroy as he wanted to, allegedly. But DJ Carnage, who also was performing at the festival, comes out and says that this fighting or jumping never even happened in the first place. And this is where Academics comes back into play, and he basically just comes out and says that Carnage is lying.
Kid Leroy. I heard when Kid Leroy almost got jumped. And by the way, I literally have video of some of the melee. Like, so you know when people say like, yo, I hate when anyone act like I would ever lie about some shit. I'm just way too reputable to ever lie about some shit. Like, if I say it and I put my word behind it, that's because I've even vetted the source. And if the source is super shaky, I'll just let y'all know, like, I have no idea this is the source.
So, call me crazy, but I actually believe Academics here, and I'll tell you why I believe Carnage would lie about this. I think he would just lie about it to cover Cole Bennett for, like, damage control, and he would cover Leroy for the fact that he just wants to cover his image. Or maybe he even wants to cover Bibby's image, who knows. But I just really don't see why Academics would lie about that, and I see why he wouldn't want to show the video because he doesn't want to incriminate anybody, so... Allegedly, in my opinion, I allegedly think that this allegedly may have happened. Allegedly. And even if this rumor isn't true, it definitely hurt Bibby's image in the industry since then, because clearly he hasn't really been able to land any artists nearly as big as either of those two guys. If Bibby could go back, I'm sure he would change this situation 100%. And obviously Leroy left Bibby because he thought Scooter Braun would help him get to like Justin Bieber's level. But if you really look back at that time, Leroy was on such a crazy path, and ever since he signed with Scooter Braun, it seems to have come to a standstill a bit. I'm not sure. I haven't really listened to his new stuff, but the way he was blowing up back with Lil Bibby and all that, it's definitely slowed down a lot. He has signed a guy named ZZZ Sammy or ZZZ. He kind of sounds exactly like Leroy, I'm not gonna lie. He's just not bad, but he hasn't really put out any songs that like are catchy or are really gonna hit with a large audience, I don't think. But I think he has some potential, but it's just not moving the way it was with Leroy and Juice. And he has actually signed a couple other guys that I've seen on the internet that I haven't actually heard any music from him, so I don't really know what's going on with those other guys. And even if you went on the Grade A website, the only artist that they claim to be managing is Juice WRLD. And that's of November 3rd, 2024. So if there is anybody else on the label, they're not trying to show it or talk about it. All I've heard of Bibby doing since this fight with Leroy or his security or whatever is just him putting out Juice WRLD albums. But personally, I would really love for Bibby to start putting out his own music again, because I think he's a great artist and he was one of my favorite rappers ever. Like, still, he's one of my favorite rappers. So I hope he figures something out with his own music, but either way, he'll be fine. He's still got the Juice WRLD catalog. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you watch this far, please comment anything, like your favorite color, what you want me to change in the video, what you want me to do next, literally anything, or literally the word anything. But thank you very much, guys. Peace.